Welcome back to the 99, where we are focused on brewing a better competitive commander. I'm your host, Patrick Marlett, and today we're talking about one of my favorite commanders in Naya, really the only one I enjoy, Marath, Will of the Wild. But wait, you're telling me this video is named something else? That is accurate, because I had an epiphanic moment recently. With the dawn of Commander 2020 and Ikoria came a new mechanic, and that mechanic was Companion. It changed the whole game for me. The show, no longer the 99. This episode, officially the 100. No, we're not changing the name of the channel. However, we will be discussing a 101 card list. Never thought I'd be saying that here. But the fact of the matter is, the name of this video is Zirda, Will of the Wild. And I'm sure you're wondering why that is. But before I get too far ahead of myself here, guys, I want you to know that this deck list I've been working on for months now. And ever since Underworld Breach came out, the list got a huge facelift. It actually changed drastically from my first tackle to the Theros Underworld Breach strategy I had. Had a whole idea with Hermit Druid and Underworld Breach, Savine's Reclamation, and some other good goods to get an infinite mana combo going and doing the thing with Marath. Well, we're done. We did a full 180, just like that Dua Lipa song, and now we're here with Zirda. But before I get into this deck tech, I want you guys to know about our fabulous partners, TCG Player. Guys, any of the cards I talk about today, I ordered them already via TCG Player. So if you guys want to get your pre-orders from Commander 2020, Ikoria, and by the way, if you haven't watched our videos on which cards to buy, watch those videos first. They are going to be a great guide for you if you're looking to pick up some singles from these sets. But guys, you can buy packs, you can buy Yu-Gi-Oh cards there, anything you want, TCG related. TCG Player is the place to go. And if you go via the link in the description, you'll be helping out the channel. And guys, if you want to help us out directly, you can do so via the Anchor support button and or our Patreon. That's right. We have some amazing patrons already. I believe we're at 22 or 23. At the end of this video, I'll be saying all of your names in honor of you. But guys, thank you so much for your patronage, especially during these dark times. Due date this video, if you are in an industry affected by COVID-19, worry about yourself, your family, your friends first. Don't worry about the channel. But if you do have money to spare, it really does go a long way here. So thank you so much. And again, special thanks to our patrons already who jumped aboard immediately. You guys are the best. You guys have no idea how excited I am for this Nayan commander, Marath, Will of the Wild. If you didn't pick this one up back in 2013, well, they're pretty darn cheap, but hopefully not for long, because I cracked that egg. I found out all that good stuff that was inside its yolk, along with some other combos and delicious things. But guys, Marath, Will of the Wild, in case you don't know what he does, Marath, Will of the Wild enters the battlefield with a number of 1+1 counters, +1/+1 counters on it, equal to the amount of mana spent to cast it. And it itself is 1 red, 1 green, 1 white. So Naya, it's an elemental beast. So if you run contested cliffs, well, guess what? You got a little beastie to throw around. More importantly, though, it's a 0/0. So to start, it comes out on the field as a 3/3. And any subsequent cast after the fact, it'll come out on the field that much larger. So 5/5, 7/7, none of that matters, because in this particular list, Marath is solely an outlet. Finally, Marath, an outlet, Naya. It gets good. It has a slew of abilities at the bottom though. X, remove X +1/+1 counters from Marath and choose one. Put X +1/+1 counters on target creature. You will do that with one combo line. Or Marath deals X damage to target creature or player. That's the one. That's the one we're all really concerned about. Or put X green elemental creature tokens onto the battlefield. You can do that too. You can put a billion elemental green creature tokens on the battlefield, but then you're going to zap everyone. That's the main plan here, because the card you're really playing for and why this deck is entitled Zirda, Will of the Wild, is this new Boros legendary companion that came out. So if you don't know who Zirda is, and I omitted it from our review, so you're actually not going to hear about this guy here in that review. That is, you will hear about him here a lot, because I wanted to insert him into the strategy. I just didn't know if it was viable or if it would work well. However, it's very viable and it works very well. So Zirda the Dawnwaker, for a generic in Boros, legendary creature, elemental fox, 3/3 body. Its companionship cost is each permanent card in your starting deck has an activated ability. If this card is your chosen companion, you may cast it once from outside of the game. Not bad. So it's not like a partner, like a true partner. You get the one cast, enjoy it, and then you go on with your life. But what does it do? Abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana in that cost to cast to less than 1 mana. So no matter what it is, it's always going to cost at least 1 generic mana, functionally speaking. And then it has one more ability, maybe relevant, not in this particular list, but Boros does a lot of attack strategies, so maybe it's relevant to some other list. 1 generic tap, target creature can't block this turn. Now guys, in case you're wondering, I am following along with my own deck tech over on Tapped Out, and there's a link in the description, guys, if you want to see the full breakdown of this list. And of course I go into detail there as well on a lot of the cards we're going to discuss today, but this video is going to be even more in-depth in case you want to really sink your teeth in to Zirda, Will of the Wild. So with the dawning of Zirda, Marath is the combo king. I'm just giving him the crown, okay? It rests so neatly upon those antlers. That's right, Oko. We are not interested in elks. We want Elemental Beast, because this guy is a badass. Marath has always been an excellent outlet, but it lacked the functionality to really pop off. I mean, you've had Tamir Sabertooth and Dockside Extortionist lines, but those are reliant on your opponent's artifacts and enchantments, and I mean, to benefit off of their value doesn't seem great. We want to quickly make infinite mana and leverage Marath as an outlet. You've also had Lion's Eye Diamond, the whole Bomberman thing with Auriok Salvagers. We've also omitted that line from this particular list, and that one actually fits into this list with the companionship cost of Zirda. However, I never really recommend the LED strategy unless it's one of the only things accessible to you. And we actually have 11 combos we're going to go over today. I know, I'm going to try to make them somewhat brief so that they're more palatable, but I do want to discuss them a little bit more in depth than obviously having just listed them out on this page. I mean, you might read these and not make sense of them. However, I will break these down for you during this video here so you understand how they all work, and obviously discuss how we get to these points in the game. And for the most part, this deck is operating on a turn 3 to 4 win. However, I do encourage you to push for the strategy, whatever combo line you have in hand off the bat, whatever combo line you mulligan for, push for it when you are best able to, when it's most advantageous. So have a couple pieces of protection and or some removal, because there's only so many things that stop this list. Mind you, because the deck is operating as such, with permanents, with activated abilities, and only those permanents, you're kind of shy on ways to remove things that are immediately tutorable, at least in Naya, because most of our tutors, you'll find out in the later half of this video, they're all creature-based. So if you happen to be facing a cursed totem, well, Marath ain't gonna do too much. And we can't really run Reclamation Sage in this list, right? Oh, Caustic Caterpillar, also activated, really doesn't do much. So you're gonna be relying on those instants and sorceries. And in this list, we actually only operate with instants that will remove those threats. So we do kind of want to move quickly here. So your starting hand is of the utmost importance when you're looking at these combo lines, which I want to discuss today. But more specifically, a lot of these, they're a little mana intensive. So your best friends here are going to be Grim Monolith, Basalt Monolith, because they're just a 2-card combo with Zirda, right? Zirda, Will of the Wild. Zirda the Dawnwaker basically makes Grim Monolith, should be on the screen now, a 2-card combo because the activated ability costs 2 less. So it taps for 3, you pay 2 instead of 4, you untap it, you make infinite generic. And then you of course have a ton of ways to leverage that. There's a few outlets that will convert that mana into something meaningful, like a Staff of Domination, or how about a Prismite? We can get Prismite very easily in this list, directly to the battlefield and make infinite colored mana. And of course, use Marath to kill the board. So you're gonna be looking for a hand, again, that starts with at least 1 combo piece and perhaps a Fabro Elder, a Bloom Tender, or a couple dorks to get the ball rolling quickly. This is not, however, like a Savala Explorer Returned, a Savala Heart of the Wilds, a Yisun. You're not always pushing to have that 3-drop on turn 2. Sometimes you can play a little bit slower, it's okay. So to go over the combos as they are listed here, and again, if you're following along, we're in the tab that says the Combo King. You can actually click on that tab. For infinite counters. Now, there was a strategy that I devised during one of the sneak peeks when I saw Cryptic Trilobite revealed that utilized hardened scales, which is kind of a staple in Marath up until this particular point. However, you can still do the same trick here. So with Illusionist Bracers, and for those of you that are listening to this, of course, this will also be on Spotify and Anchor. 2 generic for the artifact equipment that costs 3 to equip, and it does whenever an ability of equipped creature is activated. If it isn't a mana ability, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this actually functions with 2 combo cards in our list, but Marath is one of them. So if Marath is equipped with Illusionist Bracers and you have Cryptic Trilobite out, well, you can make infinite counters. And how do you do so, you ask? So long as you have a Cryptic Trilobite that is at +1/+1. So you spent effectively 2 mana for it. And as a refresher, Cryptic Trilobite is XX for a Trilobite, a cryptic one. When it enters the battlefield, it enters with X +1/+1 counters. So 1 and 1, you get a 1/1. You may remove a +1/+1 counter from Cryptic Trilobite to add 2 generic mana. However, this mana may only be spent to activate abilities. So it's rather limited in that sense, but it actually does function really well outside of combo in this deck. I mean, we're running Yisun in here, so 1 green for Yisun's ability is pretty darn good. And you'll see how this is repeatable with its next ability. For 1 generic, tap, put a +1/+1 counter on Cryptic Trilobite. So the Trilobite's just going to be getting stronger every single turn if you decide to do that, and of course you can use its mana to functionally do things. But in combo, it's even better. So Marath Will of the Wild, remember, let's just pretend we just cast Marath. Enters with 3 counters on it. So if we paid 1 and removed 1 counter, we can, with Illusionist Bracers, copy that effect and get another +1/+1 counter on a target permanent. That permanent is going to be Marath Will of the Wild. So Marath is going to lose 1, gain 1, and we're going to give 1 to our friend, the Cryptic Trilobite, who should be up to 2 now. Cryptic Trilobite will nix one of those +1/+1 counters. We've got 2 generic floating. Well, we're going to do that same thing again with Marath, but we're going to do it twice this time. Is that accurate? Yeah, I think so. The fingers are going up, guys. We've just net infinite counters, and once we've made infinite counters on these 2 creatures, of course, we can just remove all of them from Cryptic Trilobite and blast everyone with our Marath Will of the Wild. So this is a little tricky. Of course, there are points of interaction here. If someone were to try to remove Marath at this point, you get another shot, because remember, Marath has at least 1 more counter to go before he would effectively die. So there's a little bit of a startup cost here with not only the equip, but the payment for that ability. But once you get the ball rolling, you don't really need Zirda. So that's really great about this. And what's nice is that functionally there are a majority of the combos here do rely on Zirda's strength, but there are a lot of combos that can work effectively without Zirda. So that is one to bear in mind. The next combo lines I want to go over are for infinite generic mana. Mind you, all the combos I talk about today, these are strictly 2 to 3 card combos. There are no 4 card combos here, except for 1, and I'm only mentioning it because it's so good with the deck. However, there are multiple ways to get more combo lines from this deck, leveraging multiple combo pieces on a singular creature. So like Illusionist Bracers with, the Umbral Mantle also functions for a combo on some singular creatures. It's very convoluted. You're aiming for the shorter lines of play here, though. What are some of the other? I came up with some janky combos trying to condense them down, but let's just stick with the basics, and then you can find what you find. Illusionist Bracers, which we just read off, with Seeker of Skybreak. Now, this is an oldie but a goodie. Seeker is 1 generic, 1 green for a creature elf. Great, adding to that elf count. We like it. 2/1 body. Tap it, untap target creature. Well, when you copy that ability, you're going to target Seekers of Skybreak every single time. So you're going to get to untap one thing and untap Seeker of Skybreak, right? So what are you going to do with all those untaps? Well, any one of your dorks, but in this particular instance, Boreal Druid, would create infinite generic mana. Pretty darn good. Of course, you do need an outlet to convert that mana into something else, or you might just have a Walking Ballista in hand. Use the infinite generic there. You're going to kill the everyone at the table. Another infinite generic mana combo for you that, I hate to spoil it, it's not all it does. I just didn't want to spoil it in the last combo line. Staff of Domination. So with Staff of Domination, 3 generic, It's an artifact with a lot of utilities. It's actually a staple in Savala, Heart of the Wilds. So if you followed my primer there, you know that card has been there from day one. It's a must. It's an amazing combo card. For 1 generic, untap Staff of Domination. For 2 generic, tap it, you gain 1 life. We're not gonna, who does that? 3 generic, tap it, untap target creature. That sounds good. 4 generic, tap target creature. Tap target creature. And for 5 generic, tap, you may draw a card. Because why the hell not? So, Staff of Domination with Basalt Monolith or Grim Monolith. Remember, those are our 2 combo cards for Master Zirda. And of course, Zirda, well, you're making infinite generic mana, and now you're drawing your deck. Or gaining infinite life, or whatever else you want to do with Staff of Domination. You're probably going to draw your deck, grab a Prismite, and then just play Marath a bunch of times to kill the board. It's very, very good. It's a very easy 3-card combo to assemble. So long as you have like Basalt or Grim in your hand, you use that Enlightened Tutor to get Staff of Domination. FYI, that's the right move. The next infinite generic combo utilizes Prismite. So same setup, Basalt Monolith, Grim Monolith, Zirda the Dawnwaker, Prismite. So Prismite, mentioned him a few times already. 2 generic, artifact creature Golem, sweet. 2/1 body. For 2 generic, add 1 mana of any color. Well, with Zirda Dawnwaker out, it's only 1 to do that, but who gives a damn because you got infinite generic. It could be 1,000 mana to do that. You're always going to get 1 mana of any given color, and Marath loves mana of them Naya flavors. So you're going to do that combo line to essentially get Marath to go off. And the last one, I mentioned this as well, Walking Ballista. Basalt Monolith, Grim Monolith, Zirda the Dawnwaker. Another creature. The creatures are so easy to find in this deck. You know, you can't top deck a card that doesn't find a creature in this deck. So if you want to use Ranger Captain of Eos to get Walking Ballista because you see the Grim Monolith and you know you have Zirda always playable in your 101 card deck, do it. Do it. You've got Silence on board. You're in a good place. I've listed this as auto death. I mean for our opponents, if you're following along. If you just read auto death, it's a good thing in this instance. For infinite colored mana, and these are the important lines, there are a few creatures that we could add to this list that could also functionally do the same thing, like Incubation Druid would be very good. You'll also notice another card that's missing. Mirror Entity is a very common combo card that you'll find in Selesnyan builds like Explorer Returned. We don't use those here. Functionally, they're not as efficient as what you'll find for the infinite colored mana. However, we can talk about it in the comment section. Illusionist Bracers, we know that one. Seeker of Skybreak, any dork. So our dorks, generally speaking, generate green mana. You're going to find that you're going to generate green mana all the time. There's an outlet for that. Don't worry. Another staple in Savala, Heart of the Wilds. But you can make infinite green mana, or you can make infinite white mana, or you can make any mana color. So Avacyn's Pilgrim is the white generator, and of course Birds of Paradise, Bloom Tender, all those things will make all of the other colors for you, and those are the ones really to focus on, those cards that can make any colored mana or color of permanents you control. So Zirda, if we remember correctly, is Boros, and Bloom Tender and Faboro Elder, that completes the Trinity right there, the Nyan Trinity. So we're going to be able to generate mana of every color to play Marath out as many times as we choose. Again, you're going to want to, if you see a hand that has Bloom Tender, it's usually a keepable hand. Even if you can't get Bloom Tender out on, if you can't drop 1-drop Bloom Tender, keep the hand, it's good. Even if you don't have a 1-drop dork, it's a good hand. You want Bloom Tender. Again, Bloom Tender, Zirda, usually a done game. You just need to find another combo piece, which we'll definitely be talking about. Staff of Domination, oldie but a goodie. Priest of Titania. So these are a little bit more convoluted because Staff of Domination has a higher upkeep than the other artifacts we're going to read over here. So Illusionist Bracers, it's just the thing. It just happens, right? But Staff of Domination, even with Zirda's ability, it's always going to cost you 2 generic to do the effects on it, right? Even with the cost reduction, the 3 generic tap to untap target creature, it's still 1, remember? So we're going to need creatures that tap for at least 3. And again, Priest of Titania, so long as there's 2 other elves, she counts herself. She's 1 generic, 1 green, creature, elf, druid. Add green mana to your mana pool for each elf on the battlefield. So even if it's not your elf, it's important to bear that in mind. I think some people don't realize that when they see this creature, you'll get additional mana. So if your opponent, just check your opponent's creatures really quick before you try to combo off and look like a fool. Just make sure you're like, oh, that's an elf, that's an elf. Let me give myself a lot of green mana. So for each elf on the battlefield, generate that much mana. 2 more than just her. Bloom Tender, 1 generic, 1 green. Talked about this one already, and the next card's going to sound a whole lot like it. Elf Druid. There's another elf. Stick with Bloom Tender. Tap, for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. So you, with Zirda, are going to tap for 3. It's going to be Naya, so red, white, green. Fabro Elder, same thing. 1 generic and Selesnya, green, white. Creature, tree folk, druid, no elf. The priest doesn't like. Vigilance. Fabro Elder gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control. Most importantly, for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. We've seen this before. That all with Zirda. So you're going to tap Fabro Elder in this instance. You get Naya. Then you will use Staff of Domination to untap that creature. And let's just say that you start with green every single time. Like you're going to go for infinite green, right? So you'll use the red there, and then you'll use the white to untap Staff of Domination. So go ahead and make infinite green. You have infinite green. Do the same thing repeatedly till you have infinite of every color. The board will understand, I hope. If not, just break it down. I'm using this color every single time, and then I've got this color left. I'm going to use this color now to do the other colors. It works. You make infinite green mana or infinite of any color, and you may draw the deck with Staff of Domination. So if you're using the priest for this combo line, you're really just going to draw through your deck for a multitude of other combos. Generally speaking, something that's going to let you play Marath out. That's what the deck's built for. The next combo line I want to talk about, give me 1 second, is Umbral Mantle. So, Umbral Mantle. You know it, you love it, maybe. I love it. I love this card so much. It's 3 generic for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature has 3 untap, so that's the cost of the effect. This creature gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. Equip cost 0. This is the best enabler in this list. So if you have Bloom Tender and you're like, well, okay, when I know I need Zirda, what should I get to really enable the combo line here? You're gonna look for Umbral Mantle. Ton of ways to do that here. Again, even if you only have a creature tutor, get the Stoneforge Mystic. Make it happen. So with Priest of Titania, what's lovely about this combo is it only requires 2 mana, right? So something that taps for 2. Priest of Titania with 1 other elf. Jiraga Tree Speaker, amazing in this deck. Amazing in every list. Underplayed card. 1 green for a 1/1 with the ability level up. And yes, level up also benefits from Zirda. You can make level up 1 green. You're only really going to level her up the once, but between levels 1 through 4, you can tap her to add 2 green mana to your mana pool. She also becomes a 1/2. Largely irrelevant. However, you're tapping for 2 green now. In case you're wondering, level 5 and up, all elves you control get the ability to tap for 2 green. So massive, massive mana gain there. We got a lot of elves in this list, but you want to make infinite, so we're not too worried about that. Bloom Tender again, Fabro Elder again, and Zirda of the Dawnwaker. What? Okay, so we're noticing a trend here. A lot of artifacts, mostly equipment, Zirda of the Dawnwaker. Very, very good. So that's infinite green and or any colored mana. And at that point, again, you just need to find an outlet for the infinite green, or you just cast Marath. Win the game. The way Marath was meant to be played, at least in a competitive setting, because that's what we want to go for. We just want to quickly knock them out, go to the next game, play 10 games that night. The honorary mention for infinite colored mana. This is honorary because it does require 4 cards, but if your hand starts with Leyline of Abundance, yeah, it's a good hand. So you just get to cast a spell for free. It's 2 generic, green, green, If it's in your opening hand, you may begin with it on the battlefield. Whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green. What combo card were we just talking about? We just need to tap for 2. Umbral Mantle. Umbral Mantle, any dork, Leyline of Abundance. It could even be Dryad Arbor. Leyline of Abundance with Zirda the Dawnwaker. What I really like about this is it doesn't matter if the mana is of any color, because if you already have Marath out from a previous turn, Leyline of Abundance has one more ability on it. For 6 generic and double green, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. It's really good in this combo line because, again, Marath eats up 1/1 counters. He gives them away, he takes them, and he zaps people with them. Leyline Abundance is a must here. It's very, very good in this list because it gets you on the fast track to combo out. And again, even if it's only making infinite green, it's still able to use that green as on itself as an outlet to give Marath counters. It's so good. I'm happy I'm able to play this card. I pulled this from an M20 draft. I'm like, when am I going to play this? This was the deck. Now, there are a few alternative wins here, too, we're going to talk about. Walking Ballista, Heliod Suncrowned. Yeah, you've heard of that one. I think we all talked about that. That's also listed as an auto death. Again, a little bit harder startup cost. The only thing to really note here is that you need double white, right? So if you've got a way to create the infinite manas, then you just play Walking Ballista at that point. But if you have enough to make a subsequent amount of mana to cast this, because it's going to be at least 4 for Walking Ballista, 7 Heliod, and then 2 for the 9 mana. It's going to be 9 mana. Or if you have Marath out, you can just push a counter onto Walking Ballista. Now, I only included this combo because, 1, Ballista is just excellent to have on the list. There's no reason you shouldn't run it. It's immediately tutorable, and it doesn't require Naya mana to do the thing. You just have infinite mana, and you're good. But Heliod the Suncrown also combos with Marath, which we'll talk about in just a second. Our other alternative win is with Umbral Mantle and Selvala Explorer Returned. So this one's a little bit more convoluted. You also need Zirda the Dawnwaker out to really get the ball rolling here. Now, one of the more popular combo cards for Selvala Explorer Returned is Smothering Tithe. And why that is, you'll know in just a second. But Selvala Explorer Returned is a generic green and white, so she's Selesnya. This is a commander I've been working on for a little while, but this whole deck idea gave me an opportunity to play a few legendaries I've been wanting to play in a competitive scene in one list. So I'm not sure I'm going to do a deck tech on her unless you guys really want to see that. But Selvala Explorer Return has an ability that's very unique called Parlay. It's an activated ability. The basic effect here is that everyone reveals the top card of their library. That's what Parlay is. But hers is tacked on to a mana ability. So each player reveals the top card of his or her library. For each non-land card revealed this way, add 1 green to your mana pool and you gain 1 life. That's cool, I guess. Then it's really cool with Heliod. Leverage that. Gonna have to leverage that. Then each player draws a card. Well, you've got information. You know what they're drawing. You don't want them drawing cards, though. That's not good. So Smothering Tithe is great because you'll always have the mana to pay for Umbral Mantle. So while this isn't finite, Zirda the Dawnwaker makes Umbral Mantle cost 1 to activate. And Selvala is going to make mana doing this. So long as you see one card that isn't a land, right? So for each non-land card, you'll get to do the thing again. And what's really beautiful about this particular combo is that, remember, Umbral Mantle is untapping as part of its cost. So it's very hard to interact once this ball gets rolling because you can't interact with mana abilities. They don't use the stack. Yes, I see that you draw a card. It's still a mana ability. It doesn't use the stack. Umbral Mantle's effect, well, yes, it will use the stack. If someone wants to interact with you while you're untapping her to give her +2/+2, highly irrelevant, they can, and you can tap her again to draw a card, untap her. You see what I'm getting at. You'll draw them out doing this. Now, with all the free mana spells that exist in the world right now, it's going to get a little bit more difficult to do this combo, but I do have a solution for you. So this is where it gets a little bit convoluted. You don't want to give your opponents that many cards before you get some silence effect on the board. So you can just draw until you see silence. Or to really get you need to cast, so you don't draw yourself out, you need to be able to cast crop rotation. So in case you don't know what crop rotation is, I'm going to talk about it now. It is a instant speed green spell for 1 green. As an additional cost to cast crop rotation, sacrifice a land, search your library for a land card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. I say you must cast this because it's easier to do things at instant speed. So the land you're going to search for is Emergence Zone. And I'll read off the important effect. It taps for generic, but for 1 generic tap, sacrifice Emergence Zone, you may cast spells this turn as though they had flash. What's unique about this combo line is it does function at instant speed. You can win out over someone else. More importantly, if you want to continue the combo line going without drawing yourself out along with the board, once you cast Emergence Zone, you can then cast a card in this list called Green Sun Zenith. So for X and a green, sorcery speed, search your library for a green creature card with converted mana cost of X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Shuffle Green Sun Zenith into its owner's library. You shuffle twice there. That's weird. At any rate, if it asks for a particular thing to be found, you can fail to find that thing. And you can fail to find it at instant speed. So, you reveal the top card of your library. When there's 1 card left, it's always going to be Green Sun Zenith. You'll always be able to cast Green Sun Zenith. Now, at that point, you should have effectively been able to cast enough spells to allow you to do this uninterrupted. And again, there's only so many free counters, but we keep getting them, so you do need to worry about them. The one thing I recommend you doing, cast Silence. We don't have Grand Abolisher here, but we do have another card that's fantastic in the strategy because it's immediately playable with Savala mana, and that is Vexing Shusher. So for a Gruul, so red-green or red-green, 2 mana, 2/2 body, Goblin Shaman, Vexing Shusher can't be countered. Stop with the counters. Gruul, target spell can't be countered by spells or abilities. That'll do it. That'll do it right there. So you'll use your tutors to get Vexing Shusher out immediately. Have that happen. And no matter what, at instant speed, doesn't matter how many spells go on the stack to try to remove Vexing Shusher, you just keep playing Green Sun Zenith until they deck themselves. It's brilliant. And again, the other thing is you can, with this out, just save, your Green Sun Zenith and make sure it always goes off, or save your Noxious Revival to recover the thing you need to get the other thing. Vexing Shusher is the card you need out when you're trying to do this combo line, because we are lacking Grand Abolisher. But that combo extremely well in this list. You do need to think a little bit harder on this one, draw after draw, when to stop, what to go for next. But I hope that spelled it out for you. You do want to be able to do these things at instant speed. I find it just gives you more leverage over the effects in your deck. But in particular, it's just going to allow you to put Vexing Shusher onto the field, onto the stack, and then subsequently onto the field, while there may be abilities still standing from previous cast. And you can just say, stop trying to counter my things. I'm trying to win the game here. At any rate, we have a few more infinite mana combo lines to discuss. So once you get infinite green mana, there's just 1 card you need to find. Your Summoner's Pact. This is the one thing you're going to grab. Dustwatch Recruiter. Grab Dustwatch Recruiter. Why? 1 generic, 1 green for a human warrior werewolf. 2/2 body, 2 generic, 1 green. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a card from them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. We're not going to talk about the flippy thing. He's a werewolf, okay? He flips. When you use him as an outlet with infinite green mana, you're going to find Prismite or you're going to find Walking Ballista. End of story. You either auto death function or just get infinite colored mana and then auto death with Marath. If you only have infinite generic mana or white mana, you'll use Marath, Will of the Wild, plus Heliod the Sun-Crowned, and with at least 1 mana. So if it is an infinite generic, right, Avacyn's Pilgrim wasn't there, you're going to use at least 1 mana, so This combo's in your mind. You want to go for it. Heliod's been on the field. You've got the Zirda over here. You got the Basalt Monolith. Get the infinite generic going. Make sure you save one white for when Marath hits the field. Give Marath lifelink, and then have Marath ping people, much like Walking Ballista would. It's the same combo. This isn't the easiest one to get to, but it is attainable in the deck given the proper circumstances. Again, this is not one to aim for. However, if it's easy enough for you to get the infinite generic and you have Heliod Suncrown out, he's proven very difficult to take off the board, you're going to be in a good place. And also with this list, it's very difficult to get the 5 devotion going. Like, it's very rare to have the 5 devotion going. I think one of the bigger permanents that could hit the field is like Ranger Captain of Eos. Just sacrifice his ass before anything happens, before he becomes a creature and more immediately path to exileable. Okay? Swords to Plowshare, really. Those are all the combo lines I want to discuss, though. A lot. There's a lot. What's beautiful to note here, I mentioned this on the primer, this deck, the CMC and the curve is so low. All of our combo pieces, I mean every single one, are 3 CMC and under. So something like Sabine's Reclamation is going to be your best friend while trying to accomplish these combos. It is going to put you in the right place to make this deck work. And of course, we have a ton of utilities to make this deck work. I do just want to discuss some of these utilities here. I'm going to cover not what's on the primer because those speak for themselves. However, I do want to look through all of the tutors with you. What's important to note, what you should be looking for as you go through them. Things like removal, things like protection are always going to get updated, but cards like tutors, they very seldom often see updates. However, functionally speaking, they are the core components to any really competitive list. It's how, with your knowledge of the deck and your ability to tutor for certain key cards, you're going to get the win out. So, I definitely recommend you look at the primer for the in-depth look at certain tutors, certain pieces of removal, and certain pieces of protection. But for our tutors, Stoneforge Mystic, guys, this one should be obvious. I named Umbral Mantle. I named Illusionist Bracers. What if you have that in your hand? The next thing you want is to be able to go off explosively. Lightning Greaves. We put Lightning Greaves in here. We're not targeting the creatures making infinite mana. We don't have some Wirewood Symbiote Mirror Entity line going. And even if you did, no, you'd be screwed. Lightning Greaves. You'd be screwed with that. Umbral Mantle and or your Staff of Domination. Staff of Domination wouldn't work with this, so you're going to use Umbral Mantle. With Lightning Greaves on any of your creatures in Zirda, right? So like the Bloom Tender lines we discussed. Stoneforge is really there to get the ball rolling on all of those packages. There's only 3 pieces of equipment to tutor for. And my general rule of thumb when it comes to tutors, except for here, because the equipment is so important, if I have 1 tutor and there's only 2 tutorable objects in the deck, it's very good. If I have 1 tutor and there's only 1 tutorable object, it's subject. Because you might find a situation where you have the only thing you could have tutored for in your hand. So I generally like to think that there should be at least 2 things to tutor for with the 1 tutor. And in this list, there's more than that. Stoneforge Mystic, though, has the additive effect. Instead of just finding cards from your library, you can put them on the battlefield if you don't know what she does. So 1 generic, 1 white, ETBs, find a piece of equipment. There's also the effect of generic white, tap, put the equipment card onto the battlefield. So generally speaking, you want to cheat some of these out anyways. Like the Illusionist Bracer line is already very, mana intensive. It's nice to get the bracers out on your opponent's turn, so you just have to think about the 3 generic to equip. But again, equipment cost, activated ability, it's 1 with Zirda. Zirda's amazing. I hope your opponents don't figure that out really soon into playing this deck and don't remove Zirda too quickly. Him, her, it's a fox. Ranger Captain of Eos, the 2 creatures you need to think about, Cryptic Trilobite and your combo card, Walking Ballista. The only other honorable mention I'll state is Jiraga Tree Speaker. Why is that? Jiraga is able to combo in a lot of these lines functionally because she generates 2 green mana. And if Leyline of Abundance is out, she could actually use Staff of Domination, right? So she's a very good combo card in the deck that is 1 CMC. So do bear that in mind. If you have Leyline of Abundance out, that's Staff of Domination, Don't be thinking too hard about getting the Bloom Tender or Faber or Elder when you have Jiraga on the field. You're like, oh, I've got the mana. I've got the mana now. Or the Leyline's in your hand. I've got the mana. Do the Staff of Domination thing with her instead. Works equally as well. Yisun is described in depth here on the primer, but to break it down for you, Yisun the Wandering Bard is 2 generic, 1 green, legendary creature, human rogue, 2/3. For 2 generic and 1 green, tap Yisun. You may put a verse counter on Yisun the Wanderer Bard. Search your library for a creature card with a converted mana cost of equal to the number of verse counters. Put it onto the battlefield and shuffle your library. We're not really trying to do anything too crazy with Yisun here. We are just trying to get combo pieces out reliably. And again, if you have Zirda on the field, Yisun's ability is only 1 green. Power out your combo. We've got Wirewood Symbiote here for the basic fact that it untaps, helps us get mana when we need it. Or it's a piece of protection for one of our valuable elves. I don't want my elf dying to your stupid effect. Let me put that out, bounce the elf to my hand, untap Yisun. Sweet. Keep going. Scrib Ranger, bounce a forest, untap Yisun. If anything we needed was between 1 and 3 CMC, Yisun gets it almost instantaneously. Play Yisun. He's very good here. I've always been looking for an excuse to play Yisun. His effect is very expensive if you don't have a deck tailored towards utilizing him. Here, yeah, everything we're doing loves him. Survival of the Fittest speaks for itself. We don't have that many creatures. I think we have 25? 24 now. 25 with Marath, 26 with Zirda, but the list itself has 24 creatures, so mind you, Survival of the Fittest might not always be active. What is nice, though, is it's very imposing. So even if it's not something that you're validly going to play on the next turn, it's a target for your opponents. And honestly, I'm okay with someone shutting this down with their artifact enchantment removal instead of my Umbral Mantle, my Staff of Domination, my Illusionist Bracers. It's okay to put targets out there if you're not always using them. And this target has an amazing ability attached to it. If you guys don't know what Survival of the Fittest is, shame on you. But it's generic green, choose and discard a creature card from your hand. Search your library for a creature card, reveal that card to all players, make sure they all look at it, and put it into your hand, shuffle your library afterwards. Generally something you do on an opposing person's turn, unless you've got some sort of crazy reanimator strategy. We're not doing that in Naya. Summoner's Pact. This is a dangerous card because it has the effect of, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you can't pay 2 generic and double green, you lose the game, right? Or if you just neglect to do so. It's extremely good at finding green creatures on the spot and putting them in your hand because it's a tutor for green creatures. You're really only going to use this as a way to find an outlet. Dustwatch Recruiter is going to be your number 1 choice for this. Again, with Lightning Greaves, you might have more options available to you to get the Bloom Tender, put it down, and try to get the ball rolling there, but it's risky. So I wouldn't highly recommend that. I think it's best to just find an outlet with this. It does have to be green though, so you are pigeonholed into strictly using our boy, Dustwatch Recruiter. Crop Rotation we talked about, it's so good. Any list that can use Crop Rotation, use it. Why aren't you using it? It's good. I can't think of a deck that wouldn't. Utility lands are usually undervalued. Crop Rotation is so highly effective at what it does. It's always trading up. Like, you tap the land you use to crop rotate to get the thing untapped. Whatever land that was, you have complete access to it. And in this instance, it's generally going to find Gaia's Cradle and or our Emergence Zone, which is more than enough for me. In the off chance, there's one more utility land. I think the only other land that doesn't tap for mana, Hall of the Bandit Lord. You've seen this in a lot of my decks. It's also good here. We don't care too much about paying life as a cost, and we have a lot of things that subsequently gain us life, so that's okay. Hall of the Bandit Lord comes into play tap, so crop rotate on his turn, right? That guy. Get it then. Tap it, pay 3 life, add 1 generic mana to your mana pool. If that mana was spent on a creature spell, that creature has haste. Okay, so it's like a mini, it's a not as good Lightning Greaves. But you'll take it. We'll definitely take it. Enlightened Tutor, I'm not going to say anything about that card. Best card in the game. Best card for Marath's game. It's going to find all the things you need. You're not really going to search up enchantments with this one. Leyline's good. It's not that good. Start with it. We'll talk. Otherwise, play it out if you feel safe tapping out on someone else's turn. But inline tutor is generally going to go for those pieces of equipment. Worldly tutor. Worldly tutor, creature tutor, doesn't have to be green this one. Love it. One of the best creature tutors. It's like vampiric for creatures. You're going to want to use that. And again, depending on the board state, you'll know once you've really learned through the combo lines, you'll know what creatures to go for. I have to say, a majority of the time, Stoneforge Mystics is like the thing. You usually go for Stoneforge Mystic because she will get the thing for you. Hopefully your opponents don't think too highly of her, despite the fact that she just crushes all formats. She's really like White's amazing 2-drop. Eladamri's Call, same story here, guys. We have so many creature tutors. The thing I really want to talk about, though, is Signal the Clans. Now, you might not have heard of this one. Is it a hidden gem? No. It's like intuition for creatures. So it's red, green, but it's all you, though. You don't have to get anyone's opinion on the matter. Instant speed, search your library for 3 creature cards and reveal them. If you reveal, what the hell? If you reveal 3 cards with different names, choose one of them at random and put that card into your hand. Shuffle the rest into your library. So here, it being Commander, you're always going to have creatures of different names, right? Well, there's certain decks that will have creatures of the same name, but not this one, okay? This is the card you play when you know you need a certain effect. I need to have a dork that taps for 2. Okay, so I will grab Bloom Tender, Derogatory Speaker, and Priest of Titania. Those are safe. Those are safe ones. I'll leave Fabro Elder out because maybe I just want to have that as backup later. Whatever. Signal of the Clans, randomly going to give you one of those cards. Well, guess what? All 3 of those cards are good. This is one of those decks where it has enough redundancy in creature effects that Signal of the Clans is a usable card. What's best about it is its instant speed. It's very cheap to play. You know what you need to do with it. Looking at your hand, looking at your board state. This is a fantastic card. Again, not for every list, certainly for this list. Court of Calling, same thing. Tutor that creature to the battlefield. I do recommend you use this at its instant speed. This is a great card to instant speed ability, cards out. It's instant. You should use it at instant speed. And I mean, at the end of that guy's turn again. Don't use this at sorcery speed. Don't try to fast combo on your turn with a card that costs X and triple green, okay? Set it up first. It also has Convoke, so creatures that you have can help you cast this by tapping them. They can add generic or a color of their identity, right? But basically, you search your library for a creature of X or less and put it onto the battlefield, shuffle your library. We all know that one very well. Gamble, grab anything, lose anything. Rule of thumb, have at least 5 to 6 cards in hand. If you're feeling really lucky, you'll do the 3 or 4. Don't cast this when you have, it's your only thing in hand. Don't cast this if you only have 2 cards in hand, okay? Don't be that crazy. Don't gamble that deep, but it's just another one of those cards you kind of have to play. I'm always on the fence about gamble. Let me know if you guys like gamble. It's just kicked me in the ass so many times, like I can't even count anymore. Green Sun Zenith, specifically green creatures, right? So it is used in tandem with Zavala Explorer Returned to win the game. And again, you can do this on your turn. You can do it at instant speed with Emergence Zone. It's really good. It needs to be in the list. Generally speaking, I use it to find Dryad Arbor. It's my turn 1 play. There's really nothing better in my mind for Green Sun Zenith. And get it back later. And when you really need it for some sort of utility in green, do it then. Again, Bloom Tender. That's the big one. That's the one you want to play. Grab Bloom Tender. Super expensive. There's a reason for that. Just super good. Steel Shaper's Gift. This is obvious. 1 white. Sorcery. Search your library for an equipment card. Reveal that card. Put it in your hand. Bam! Umbral Mantle. Illusionist Bracers. Lightning Greaves. 3 choices. This is one of the only decks where I've done 1-to-1 purely with my tutors. Like Steel Shaper's Gift. open the armory, which we'll get to, and of course Stormforged Mystic. We need those equipment bad. We'll use everything we can get. Sylvan Tutor, 1 green, same thing as our Worldly Tutor, not as good sorcery speed. Still gonna play it. Finale of Devastation, X, double green. There's only so much we can do to get Zirda back, right, from the grave. This is one of them, so note that if you've never played with Finale of Devastation. Amazing card in green. We have Noxious Revival, Savine's Reclamation, and this. X, double green, sorcery, search your library and or graveyard for a creature card with a converted mana cost of X or less and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. If X is 10 or more, creatures you control get +X/+X and haste until the end of turn. This can also be an alternative win con. I've seen people do it. It's not necessary here. You have infinite mana, do the Marath thing. But if it's only infinite green and you've got a way to get in, why the hell not? I've won with Finale of Devastation where X was +10 or more, but it came down to a slugfest and just one more person to swing at. So, you know, it wasn't like a big swing, but it was enough to win the game. Open the Armory. Most notably, I talk about this card in depth on the primer. 1 generic, 1 white, sorcery speed. Search your library for an aura or equipment card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. God, so many delicious tutors. Beyond the cards we've already mentioned, there's a 4th card that this card can search up, and that is Nature's Chosen. This card is really funny. I'm going to read this one off because it doesn't see use in every list, because it's a weird-ass card. Let's just start there. Green, enchant creature, aura. Play on a creature you control. I'm reading the text from Allegiance, I think is what this set was. Pay 0 to untap enchanted creature. Use this ability only once during your turn. 0, tap enchanted creature to untap target artifact, creature, or land. This is amazing, that last ability. The creature has to be white. I should stipulate that. To do the bottom effect, the creature has to be white. Shame. We've got some white creatures though. So this is generally going to be used if there's something that's bigger that taps for more. Your Gaia's Cradle, your Bloom Tender, your Fabro Elder. Tap this thing to untap that thing, right? Or you can untap said artifact. Like if you want to if you really want to run down the untap shenanigan trains, there's plenty of things you can untap. I mean, you can even untap, it works at sorcery speed. No. It works at instant speed, excuse me. So you could untap your Sensei's Dividing Top to top again, right? And then just draw into the Sensei's Top. There's no really valid move there. Staff of Domination would be a one to untap, though. There's a few things that you can leverage with this. You're obviously going to untap a creature for the most part, or Gaia's Cradle. Open the Armory. Does it really search for Nature's Chosen that often? If I have the things I need, like if I have the piece of equipment in my hand and I'm lacking the mana sufficient to go off, I didn't get my land drop for the turn, I'll get Nature's Chosen then. For sure. The last one is Eldritch Evolution, and I love this card so much. It's one I neglected for so long, but I should be playing more. You should be playing more. 1 generic, double green, sorcery speed. Is an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost of X or less, where X is 2, plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield. Then you shuffle your library, exile Eldritch Evolution. You'll never get to enjoy that effect again, at least not this game. What's great about this is Marath creates tokens. Just sacrifice one of those 1/1 green elemental creatures and get a 2-drop. Bloom Tender, Stoneforge Mystic. Or you can sacrifice one of your dorks to grab Heliod, Yisun, Savala Explorer Returned. You get the picture. This hits everything in our deck. Literally everything. And again, it's X or less. So you're not pigeonholed into grabbing any one particular thing. Grab X or less. Amazing tutor. So that is the gambit of tutors. You are going to leverage these as you see best, given your hand. And again, try to start with at least one combo piece, and that is the big ass dork and or the equipment, the Staff of Domination, Grim Monolith, Basalt Monolith, there's so many, and at least one dork, really, to get the ball rolling. So basic dork. Can even be Boreal Druid, okay? So does it suck missing out on certain cards because of Zirda's companionship? Not really. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is honestly the best this deck has ever been, even without the Carpet of Flowers, even without the Sylvan Library, because there's so much value packed here that it's okay. It's that much more efficient. There's literally only a few working parts, only a few pieces that I might even consider flexible at this point, because the deck is so efficient at doing the thing. And I love the fact that the thing happens in multiple layers. You're never really shut down if any one combo piece goes, even Zirda, because we've seen, as we've discussed, multiple combos that rely on cards outside of Zirda. It's okay that Zirda dies, and there's ways to recover Zirda at that. I've also mentioned a few cards in the sideboard here that I'm going to test as I get to play this deck more. Obviously, I've only tested this newest version of the list. I can state that it is easily my favorite version of Marath, relative to the other versions I've played out with the gang, but I would recommend something like Salvage Scout being in here, even Heroic Intervention for just a little bit more protection for your artifacts, as they are so valuable here. And of course, Salvage Scout recovers artifacts. But I love this deck. I love this deck so much. I've spent so much time trying to piece together a better Marath, and I honestly think this is the one. Zirda, Will of the Wild, you're just playing my heartstrings here, boy. That Fox is so damn good. There are obviously other things to brew with Zirda, but I think that this was really the list it was meant for. There's really not another creature that is as accessible an outlet as Marath is with what Zirda does. So let me know if you're brewing for Zirda or any other companions. Join me on the 100 for our next video with companionship, obviously. But before I leave you guys, I do want to do a shout out to our wonderful patrons. All right, we have 22 lovely patrons I want to shout out today, and I think this is where I'm just going to run through them this time. Fast track it. Allie, awesome. To really hammer it home, y'all are the best. I just want you to know. Jarn, the best. Brendan, the best. Burden, best. Clyde, amazing. Frank, excellent. Jared, brilliant. Javier, scar level of brilliant. Mace, love ya. Jordan, thank you so much. Josh, Leon, Luke, equally amazing. I don't know what that was. Mahoy Manoy, thank you so much. Nathan Spencer, brilliant dude. Nick, I mean, all these guys are brilliant if they're patrons to this channel. Oliver, thank you so much. Running Red, one of the best always. Sam, this is how I see my future self. Shade, Shord, and the Holy Knight, you all are awesome. Thank you so much for your patronage. It really means a lot here, more than you can ever know. It means so much to have your support. So thank you so much for helping us out on the channel and helping me get these things set up for y'all. Like, it's just, this is an expensive hobby, but I do hope you enjoyed as much as I do. I had so much fun brewing for this list. I cannot wait to get my pre-orders in. I'm going to have to keep playing with proxies for now, but Marath, Will of the Wild with Zirda, what do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below, guys, and thank you for joining me on another video. Again, I'm Patrick Marlett, and happy brewing, babies.